This video may or may not contain audio issues. The Triforce of Aura, I mean power, has been known to disrupt lesser devices. You have been warned.
Tell me, you ever feel a strange sadness as dusk falls? They say it's the only time where our world intersects with theirs. The only time we can feel the lingering regrets of spirits who have left our world. That is why loneliness always pervades the hour of twilight.
Listen, when I was about 9 years old when I first heard that bar, I knew this game was about to change my life forever. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess was the first game that introduced me to the Zelda franchise, and although I eventually went back to play the other games, such as Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and played future titles that came after Twilight Princess, such as Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, I think I'm just super biased to say that Twilight Princess resonated with me the most. Let me preface by saying I didn't own a GameCube at the time. I played Twilight Princess on the Wii, and man, it just felt so satisfying swinging my Wii remote and feeling like the chosen one. And although most of this video is going to be talking about the positives of the game and what I adored, I'm also going to touch base on some things that I personally think could have been improved and some things that just bothered me. I decided to replay the game after so many years, because unfortunately 9-year-old me wasn't smart enough to complete the water temple, so I never finished the game back then. But I somewhat developed a brain, so I finished the game now, so I think I'm qualified to yap about it. Also, can we talk about like the intro sequence to this game? I think it's just absolutely beautiful and just sets the tone of like what Twilight Princess is gonna be. Like, absolute cinema. Comparing this Hyrule to other Hyrules from various Zelda games, there's a lot of pros and cons to this particular one, so let's just start off with the positives. The first 2 hours of the game forces you to familiarize yourself in Auradon Village, located in the southern part of Hyrule. Now, I know there's a lot of opinions out there. Some people disliked the long start, while others like myself enjoyed it. I just remember spending hours roaming around, looking through Link's stuff in his house. Like, he has a photo of Fado for some reason. I loved running around, talking to the villagers, going into their houses when I can. Like, look, you can even hold the dog in this one. Look how happy Link looks, it's so cute. It's also super funny when you're throwing pumpkins to get some rupees and you get yelled at by Jaggle. Yeah, apparently his name is Jaggle. I don't think anyone in the game explicitly says that. Like, I had to look it up. I also really like the concept of a somewhat older Link that the villagers depend on, from being a rancher to an exterminator to animal control in order to get a baby cradle back, and Link being like this older brother figure to the village kids. Regarding the world and atmosphere in the beginning of the game, I just get this cozy feeling while being in Auradon. Like, I want to live there. It gives off this sense of community, and I just feel invested in the world. Once the inciting incident occurs in the game, in this context Illy and Colin getting kidnapped, we're introduced to the Twilight, and the atmosphere of the game flips. We've seen Faron Woods when it's normal, in the realm of light when we had to rescue Tallow. It gives off that foresty grove vibe, but bathed in Twilight, we're seeing it in a whole new light. Get it? Even though it's the same environment, it looks so different, so eerie. From blue skies to like this lavender ember, like depending where you are. I think the game does a really good job showing the difference between light and twilight. It's not just Hyrule in dark mode. Twilight is the time of day between daylight and darkness, occurring either before sunrise or after sunset. It's why Russell's quote hits so hard in the beginning of the game. You explore most of the regions in their twilight state while collecting the Tears of Light in Faron, Eldin, and Lanayru. The game does an incredible job of capturing the eerie atmosphere of this world once filled with light, now shrouded in twilight. I know I've been glazing the twilight for most of this section, but come on. The twilight just has this eerie beauty to it. I think the game does a really good job showcasing the ethereal, otherworld vibe it's going for, like being the other side of the same coin of Hyrule. Even with its dark backstory. I don't know if it's just me, but I love the black pixels, especially when you collect a fused shadow. Like, it's just so peak. I like the different environments the game provides. The desert in Gerudo, the snow in Peak Province, the western movie-like vibe in Kakariko and the Hidden Village. I love how populated Castletown feels. Sure, the NPCs don't really do all that much, but it feels alive in a sense. It feels like a city populated with a bunch of merchants and stores and residents who live there. Now here's my criticism about the world. I just think there's a lot of emptiness in Hyrule Field specifically. Like, I get it's a field and it's supposed to be open and vast, but I feel like they could have just done more than provide some monsters in different areas of the field. Like, sure, you could roam around and collect bugs, use the Dominion Rod or the Beyblade Spinner, but even then, to me, it's just a whole lot of nothing. Overall, even with its quirks and all, I really like this version of Hyrule, especially with the Twilight influence. Maybe it's the nostalgia, maybe I'm just being biased, but I think the game does an amazing job of setting the atmosphere and feeling immersed in this world. I'm not afraid to say it, the story of Twilight Princess is honestly peak. So much of the game feels cinematic, and a lot of the cutscenes are surprisingly fleshed out. I'm not going to go over the story in the exact order the game does, but I'll summarize most of it for context. The story isn't too complicated, but Linearu explains that back in the early days of Hyrule, once people found out about the Sacred Realm, a big conflict broke out. A group called the Interlopers, who were really skilled in magic, tried to take control of it. The Light Spirit stepped in and banished them to the Twilight Realm. Throughout the game, we learned that the Interlopers are ancestors of the Twilight. Minna was ruler of this realm until Zant turned her into an imp and proceeds the Twilight invasion of Hyrule using the Mirror of Twilight. Before Zant's rise to power, the Mirror of Twilight was used in Hyrule to banish the most dangerous criminals, including but not limited to Ganondorf. He was executed, until he wasn't.
You bitches thought you could get rid of me?
Through some divine prank, he received the Triforce of Power, but before he can do anything about it, he was yeeted into the Twilight Realm. But before the invasion, we're introduced to this version of Link, the soft-hearted goat rancher who's always there to lend a helping hand. This Link hasn't left his small-town village, until that is, Ilya and Colin getting kidnapped and being exposed to the Twilight. Link becomes a wolf, and you cannot tell me that this scene doesn't remind you of the Where Sonic transformation scene from Sonic Unleashed. Link ends up in Hyrule's prison. We are introduced to Midna, and then we set off. We meet Princess Zelda, and oh my god, I love this design. It's my favorite, and she is serving every scene she's in. Oh my god, Midna says the title of the game. Zelda explains how Hyrule has now succumbed to Twilight, and people have turned into spirits. After Midna taunts us for not being able to save Ilya and Colin, she offers to help. We head back to Auradon, and she tells us to grab a sword and shield. We discover that the monsters have kidnapped all the village children, and man, seeing the villagers die devastated really sucks. We spent 2 hours getting attached to this place, and watching everything fall apart kinda hits hard. We return to Ferret Woods, where the Light Spirit explains that its light has been stolen and we need to retrieve it. Once we retrieve it, the spirit tells us that there's a dark power in the Forest Temple, a power that Midna tells us that she needs. And boom, we find the first few shadows. Also, I need to emphasize just how cinematic this scene feels when Link is told that he is the chosen one. Once we make it to Kakariko, we finally find the village kids. Kakariko covered in Twilight has such an unsettling vibe. You can only imagine how scared those poor kids must feel. It's honestly kind of sweet though when Colin reassures everyone that Link will come save them, and they all start getting a little bit hopeful again. Then after we restore the light to the Elden region, seeing how happy the kids are to see Link is just so wholesome.
Move, bitch!
We are told that the next fused shadow is in Death Mountain. However, the Gorons are not letting any of the humans in. Renato, the shaman of Kakariko village, tells us that the Gorons only listen to strength and that the mayor of Auradon, Bo, aka Ilya's dad, may have something to help us with. The scene where we find Epona again is just so peak. Once we tame Epona, we can return to Auradon, and we can finally reassure the villagers that the kiddos are safe in Kakariko village. And man, just seeing everyone relax now is just so nice. Then we meet up with Mayor Bo, and he teaches us the art of sumo wrestling. The mayor also gives us some iron boots because we're cheaters. I'm sure they're not gonna notice. But before we return to Kakariko, this scene plays out. Look how badass Link looks. Oh my god, we're so gonna kill this guy. Once we rescue Colin and yeet King Boblin off the face of the earth,
King Boblin is blasting off again!
we aura farm. And to Death Mountain we go. When we get to Death Mountain, we're about to get jumped.
Come on, get his ass.
Link is challenged to sumo wrestle, and spoiler alert, we win.
Damn, this pipsqueak can throw.
Gorkron explains that their leader, Darvis, came in contact with the Fused Shadow and transformed into a monster, so they had him chained up deep in the mines. We get the second Fused Shadow, Darvis seems to go back to normal, and Minda gives us the name of the person who's been plaguing Hyrule with Twilight. We head back to Kakariko Village as we meet Colin, who seems to be recovering now. He asks us to save Ilya, and with that we go. As we step back into the twilight, we return to our wolf form. As we're trailing along, we catch a whiff of Ilya's scent. As we follow that scent to Castletown, it turns out that Ilya is at Telma's bar. When we get to Zora's domain, it is completely frozen over, along with the Zoras with it. And man, this is just such a chilling sight. When we free them, the Queen of the Zoras appears in front of us. She tells us that she was executed in front of her people, but also informs us that her son, Prince Ralis, is in need of our help. She explains that if we help her son, she'll grant us the protection of water. We go ahead and find the Tears of Light, we fight this disgusting bug, and now it's restored. Lanayru tells us the chilling story about the Fused Shadow and the history of Hyrule, and just how influential the power is and how one can be ruled by it. As we return to our human form, we head to Telma's bar because that's where 1, Ilya is, and B, where Prince Ralis is. After all, we do need to get the protection of water. As we enter the bar, we see Ilya, and it looks like she does not give a single shit about us. Telma explains that she knows a shaman in Kakariko, Renato, and that she knows that Renato would be able to cure Prince Ralis of what he has.
A girl worth fighting for.
But getting to Kakariko is infested with monsters.
Huh?
Turns out Link is just the guy to help them escort Prince Ralis to Kakariko Village. Telma notes that Link recognizes Ilya. She informs us that Ilya can't even remember her own name right now. She's going through her amnesia arc. After we get the prince to Kakariko, we are gifted the Zora armor. And now we're ready for the infamous Water Temple. Yay! We somehow complete the Water Temple. We get the third Fused Shadow, and now we're all set. Just as we return, we are met with a surprise. It's Zant. He turns us into a wolf, takes the Fused Shadows we worked so hard to collect, and taunts Midna before forcing Lanayru to unleash his light on her, which leads us straight into Midna's lament. This whole section is so tense and desperate. I was literally rushing to get her into the castle, thinking there was some timer before it was too late. When we finally reach Princess Zelda, the whole mood shifts. Midna immediately asks how she can lift the curse on Link. She's not even thinking about herself, which is so uncharacteristic of her. Zelda explains the only thing that could restore Link to his human form is the Blade of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword. After Midna mentions the Mirror of Twilight, Zelda makes the conscious decision to sacrifice herself in order to save Midna. She is shocked, but she refuses to let that sacrifice be in vain. And once we return to Hyrule Field, we see the castle encapsulated by Twilight. And you can tell Midna is out for blood. As we make our way towards Faron Woods, we see the little monkey from when we met back in the Forest Temple. We save her from some monsters, and she tells us of a place deep within the woods. As we get there, we play a little game with Skull Kid, and once we arrive at our destination, we go through a very gruesome puzzle, and then we find the Master Sword. After Link obtains the Master Sword, Midna has asked us to help her get to the Mirror of Twilight, as this could be their last potential link to Zant. Also, on top of everything, Zant basically leaves us with the ability to transform into a wolf whenever we want. We head back to Telma's bar and finally meet the resistance members she mentioned back in Kakariko. There's Shad, a researcher studying the Uka. Yeah, those weird chicken-looking things. Then there's Ashe, a soldier and a total badass. And then we notice a guy who looks way too familiar. Because he is. It's our homeboy Russell. The last member, Aru, is out in Lake Hylia investigating the Gerudo Desert, where the mirror chamber is, and where we're headed next. We meet up with Aru as he explains that there have been some strange things going on in the desert. He gives Link a memo to hand to Fire that will help us get a ride there. Once we arrive to Gerudo Desert, Midna explains to us the purpose of the fused shadows and the backstory of her people, that her ancestors were the interlopers who were banished to the Twilight Realm, and that their only link to this world is the Mirror of Twilight. As we explore the desert, we meet our best buddy once more, King Boblin. After we beat him again, we hitch a wild ride, and finally we get to Arbiter's grounds. When we finally reach the mirror chamber, Minna is stunned to see that the mirror has been broken into shards. She's in defeat, but then the sages reveal the truth behind everything. The real source of all this chaos, Xant's true power, is because of Ganondorf. It's explained that the mirror can only be completely shattered by the true ruler of the Twilight. Xant can only break it into shards. The sages say that one shard is in a snowy mountain, another in an ancient grove, and one is in the heaven. We head back to Telma's bar to meet up with the resistance once again. They tell us that Ashe is up at the Snow Peak province. When we find her there, she explains that the Zora mentioned sightings of a Yeti coming into their domain to fish for a reek fish. When Link talks to the Zoras, they tell him that the only one who could actually catch a reek fish is Prince Rallis. So we head back to Kakariko, where we find Rallis by the graveyard. He is still grieving his mother and is unsure how to lead his people. But after seeing the courage Link has shown time and time again, he starts to feel more confident in himself. We tell him what we need, and Prince Rallis gives us his coral earring to use as a hook so we could catch the reek fish. Now that we have the hook, we head back to Zora's domain and catch the reek fish. Thanks to Xant's little gift, we can turn into a wolf and track this set all across Snow Peak. Eventually, we run into Yeto, the Yeti who has been visiting Zora's domain. Once we explain to him what we are looking for, he tells us that he has given his wife, Yeta, a pretty mirror shard. Then we snowboard down the mountain after him all the way to his mansion. Once we head inside, we meet Yeta, who tells us that after she looked into the mirror, she had gotten sick and they locked it away in their bedroom. So we end up on a whole goose chase throughout the mansion just to find the key. And once we do, and once we finally reach the mirror, Yeta starts describing how beautiful it is. Until... its dark influence starts taking a hold of her. Soon we defeat Yeta, and then... Honestly, couple goals, they're so cute. We finally get our second mirror shard. 2 more to go. We head back to the Resistance and they tell us that Russell is out in Farron Woods. When we meet up with him there is this really nostalgic moment. Just thinking about how much things have changed since the last time we were in these woods. Russell gives us the Golden Kuko, which we'll need to reach the Sacred Grove. We play another round of hide and seek with Skull Kid, and eventually we make it to our destination. The next mirror shard is inside the Temple of Time. We fight another disgusting bug, grab the shard, and boom, one more to go. Before we could keep grinding for the last mirror shard, Tama steps in and says she wants to help Ilya recover her memory. She sends us to the doctor, the same guy who originally tried to treat Prince Rallis, and gives us a tab to settle what he's owed. When we meet him, he explains that Ilya had a strange statue with her, but he spilled medicine on it and left it outside, which was eventually taken away. Thanks to our handy wolf form, we can track the statue's scent. We follow the trail, fight off a group of monsters, and finally recover the statue. When we bring it back to Ilya, the moment she sees it, everything clicks. She remembers the hidden village and impasse. Ilya explains that while she was separated from the Orion kids, she ended up in a village with an old woman, and that village was attacked by monsters. As she describes it, the Gorons recognize this place. The entrance is blocked off by rocks, but nothing for a Goron to handle. Darbus smashes them open, revealing the hidden village. When we step inside, we get this amazing Western-style shootout scene.
It's high noon.
After the showdown, we meet Impaz. Once we tell her about Ilya, she asks us to return this charm to her. When we bring it back, we get this sappy moment and Ilya finally regains her memory. She gives us a horse charm, something she wanted to give to us before we left on our journey. She also mentions that Impaz talked about the rod to the heavens, which kind of sounds like the Dominion rod we just got from the Temple of Time, so we probably need to give her a visit again. We get to the hidden village, and we show Impaz the Dominion rod, and she gives us the Sky Book. Back in Renato's basement, we find Shad, and seriously, I have to point this out, he looks like Milo Thatch from Atlantis. He's trying to decode sky writing on this ancient statue. We show him the Sky Book, but he says some characters are still missing. Luckily, there are other statues like this across Hyrule, where we can track the rest. After collecting them, Shad reads the completed text. The seal breaks, and we use the Dominion Rod to move the statue, and a hidden cannon is revealed. Shad is completely shocked and has no idea that this was any of our doing, and I just love how self-aware Midna is. We warp the cannon to Lake Hylia and take it to Fire, who says he can fix it for 300 rupees, which honestly isn't a bad deal. I think dude is seriously undercharging himself. Once the cannon's repaired, we finally launch ourselves straight into the heavens. We make it to the city in the sky and finally reunite with Uku. I totally forgot to mention her way earlier, but basically we've been running into her in every dungeon up until this point, and she's the reason why we can warp out of them. Her whole mission has been to get back home, here, to the city in the sky. And of course she jumped into the cannon with us at the last second. The moment we arrive, we see a massive dragon fly by us. And if it isn't obvious enough, that's our dungeon boss. We work our way through the temple, take down the dragon, and finally claim the last mirror shard. When we return to the mirror chamber and place all the shards back together, the Mirror of Twilight finally restores itself. The portal opens, but before we can step through, the sages drop the big reveal. Midna is actually the Twilight Princess. Midna explains that in the Twilight Realm, the chosen hero takes the form of a divine beast. She admits that at first, she didn't care about the world of light at all. Her only goal was to take back her throne and restore her own people. But after everything she's witnessed, Link's courage and Zelda's sacrifice, she realizes she can't just fight for one world anymore, but both. When we step into the Twilight Realm, Midna slows down and quietly asks if she can keep hiding in Link's shadow. She admits she's ashamed. She doesn't want her people to see her like this, twisted into a cursed form. The idea of their ruler returning in such a state breaks her heart. It's honestly a gut punch to hear. We've known Midna to be this sharp, bold, and unapologetic since the moment we met her, and seeing her this vulnerable and ashamed, it really hits different. Midna is not the only victim to Xant's tyranny. Her people are also turned into cursed forms. When we finally get to the throne room, we're about to face Xant, and shit is about to go down.
My envy is a calling. It's the sole hope of the Twilight, because it's what has driven me into annihilating you.
Is that a line from the new Superman movie?
No. Anyway, want to hear how I got this sick mask? It all started in the era before Aura. I was weak and bitchless. Ain't got no money, ain't got no bitches. No, no, no! But then, the god of Aura descended from the heavens. Holy shit, is that the fucking sun?
Basically, Zan's goal is to merge light and shadow to make darkness. What is this, Kingdom Hearts?
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
We defeat Zan, but Midna is not having any of his shit. She basically pops him like a balloon. She's stunned by the sheer power of her ancestors' dark magic. But with Zan gone and the fused shadow returned to us, there's only one place for us to go: Hyrule Castle. For the first time ever, we witness Midna use the fused shadows. And well... And for the very last time, we come across King Boblin once again. And after we defeat him for the last time, he takes his loss like a champ.
GG, well played.
He says he only follows the strongest side, and that's clearly us. And Midna is just so shocked to hear him actually talk. As we go through Hyrule Castle, we see the Resistance members once more come in clutch, and honestly, it's kind of heartwarming to see. Avengers moment, am I right? Now we're finally in the endgame. Ganondorf is just casually aura farming on the throne. Midna's just itching to kick his ass. And Ganondorf shows off his Triforce, practically taunting us before showcasing an unconscious Princess Zelda. Midna rushes to her until... We fight Puppet Zelda, and once she's defeated, Midna extracts Ganondorf from her, and Zelda is back to normal. We then dive straight into round 2, Beast Ganon. We beat him, things finally seem to turn around, and of course, Ganondorf isn't done yet. But before we can react, Midna warps Link and Zelda out to Hyrule Field. She's staying behind. She's about to 1v1 Ganondorf herself. Out in Hyrule Field, Link and Zelda suddenly hear explosions echoing from the castle. They turn toward the sound just in time to see Ganondorf on horseback, and in his hand is Midna's helmet.
Watch and learn, Link. This is how you aura farm!
We battle on horseback, but Bro falls off his horse when we beat him, and then we 1v1.
Ha! You call that a sword? This is a sword.
At the right moment, we strike the Master Sword into Ganondorf's chest. Also, can I just say, this face is a way better meme for Ganondorf than whatever the hell this was. Also, Ganondorf really does have the Triforce of Aura, cause dude just straight up dies standing up. As we emerge victorious, we turn around to see the light spirits and Midna's figure in the distance. As we rush up to see her, we see her true form, and she is a total baddie. When the credits roll, we see a little of post-game events. Russell arrives to Kakariko to take Auradon kids and Ilya back home. We see Colin with the sword and shield, clearly inspired by Link's courage. Then we see Prince Rallis, watched over by Queen Ritella's spirit, beginning to accept both his mother's passing and his new role as leader of the Zoras. We return to the mirror chamber and it's a bittersweet goodbye. Midna explains how dangerous the mirror is, but also wonders if maybe they were destined to meet. Maybe that's why the mirror ended up in their world in the first place. She says as long as the mirror remains, there's always a chance they could see each other again. But just as she's about to leave, she makes her choice.
Dad.
Midna shatters the mirror before returning to the Twilight Realm, and I swear I was bawling my eyes out. And that's the end. It's such a beautiful story, and watching how much the characters grow along with it makes it even hit harder. Though I adore this story in this game with all my heart, I won't deny I have some issues with it. Honestly, I never cared for Ilya's amnesia arc. She was never a character I connected to begin with. She steals Epona not once but twice, and we barely get to know her before the whole inciting incident happens. Then after all that build-up, she gives us a horse charm that ends up being pretty useless by the late game since we're already warping everywhere anyway, and when her memory finally comes back, she just kind of stands there. I always felt like Ganondorf, and even Zelda, were kind of shoehorned into the story. The arrival takes away from the attention of the much more stronger conflict between Zant and Midna. I mean, Zant is meant to be the puppet, but the reveal still makes the whole build-up feel weaker. He goes from this terrifying, unpredictable villain to someone who's just following Ganondorf's orders the whole time. Honestly, Ganondorf could have just been sitting in the throne room doing nothing the entire game, and it really wouldn't change much. Twilight Princess does have great themes, with Zant and Midna and the Twilight Realm on their own. It almost feels like the game didn't fully trust that story without forcing Ganondorf into it. Lastly, what was King Bublin's actual reason for kidnapping the kids, and why dump them to Kakariko Village? This felt like a plot device, and I wish it was fleshed out more. I love Midna's character arc so much. She starts off as this selfish, snarky companion, but over time she's generally inspired by Link and Zelda's actions. She grows so much and her personality shines through in every scene. There's a reason why she's one of the most beloved companions in the entire series, and that's why the ending hits so hard. After everything, after all the growth, she destroys the Mirror of Twilight, and knowing we may never see her again just hurts. I love how other characters are inspired by Link and how much of an impact he has on everyone around him. Because of Link's actions, Colin finds the courage to step in and save Beth from King Bublin. Prince Rallis gains the confidence to believe in himself and accept that he can lead his people after his mother's passing. Heck, even King Bublin acknowledges Link's trait. He literally tells him he follows the strongest side. Moments like these really show how Link's heroism changes people, not just the world. Honestly, even though Zant kinda gets sidelined near the end, I still love the flip in his character. At first he comes off as intimidating and almost terrifying, but then when we finally see him in the Palace of Twilight, he kinda snaps and turns out to be a complete lunatic. It's such a wild shift, and although I do wish they kept that mysterious, intimidating aura for a bit longer, he's still definitely memorable. I have to talk about the hero Shade. Honestly, one of the most important characters in the whole game. I know I didn't bring him up in the story summary, but he really deserves his own little section. The fact that he's canonically the hero of time is wild, and the line, "A sword wields no strength unless the hand that holds it has courage," is a straight up bar. I wish the game made learning his techniques feel a little bit more urgent, because I'm not gonna lie, there were times where I completely forgot to go meet him. Lastly, I really wish Zelda had been more involved in the story. Her design in this game is absolutely stunning, and even though Twilight Princess is very much Midna's story, it still feels like Zelda deserved a bigger role. Outside the beginning, her sacrifice, and the endgame, she doesn't really get much time to shine. Zelda is such a major figure in the series, and there's so many ways they could have woven her into the plot more without taking anything away from Midna's arc. Starting with the Forest Temple, honestly, it hit me with a wave of nostalgia. I remember most of it even after so many years. I love the little monkeys, they're so cute, and for the most part the temple is pretty straightforward. The mini boss is adorable, and the way he runs away after you beat him is funny. But then he shows up again and actually helps during the boss fight. King behavior. The Gale Boomerang is great too, super useful, even all the way into late game. The boss is absolutely terrifying to look at, but overall it's a pretty easy boss since it's the first dungeon. Honestly, I give the Forest Temple a solid 10 out of 10. The Goron Mines aren't too hard of a temple either, and I really like the vibe and aesthetic of this underground volcanic mine that they're going for. I like the idea of tracking down the 3 Elder Gorons, piece together the boss key. It gives the dungeon a nice sense of progression. But I have to mention this, the iron boots are so slow. This dungeon loves making you use them. Climbing walls, walking upside down, all of that actually is really cool in concept, but moving around in those boots feels like going through wet cement. Getting the bow and arrow here is great, and it ends up being one of the most useful weapons in the entire game, and the boss fight, pretty fun and visually awesome. I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Now for the temple I was really dreading, the Water Temple. The second I walked in, my trauma came back, and honestly, my opinion hasn't changed. The swimming still sucks. I backtracked constantly because I couldn't remember shit half the time, and the whole layout was just confusing and stressful for me. I didn't like it then, and I certainly didn't like it now. I'll give credit where it's due. The main room is gorgeous. The claw shot is fun too, but it becomes more enjoyable once you get the second one. But overall, I hated doing this dungeon. The only saving grace was the boss. The fight was epic and probably the only good thing out of this entire dungeon. I give it a 5 out of 10. Arbiter's Grounds felt completely different from the last 3 dungeons. The atmosphere was eerie, and honestly, it gave me Tomb Raider vibes. There are even unique enemies here that you don't see anywhere else, like these bugs that chase you unless you use your lantern. The mini boss was so badass. Just look at this scene. My favorite item in the entire game shows up here, the Beyblade, the fidget spinner of Hyrule, and it's insanely fun to ride around on. The boss was epic too in both phases, and it was such a cool moment when Zant appears right before the fight. I give it a solid 10 out of 10. I love the idea that Yetta and Yetta's home doubled as a dungeon in Snow Peak Ruins. The mansion's atmosphere is great, half cozy, half falling apart, and every time Yetta leads you to the boss key, but you just end up finding ingredients for soup, I felt like I was playing Kingdom Hearts 3 all over again.
This might be a good spot to find some ingredients.
The middle section was a little confusing, but nothing too hard to figure out. The mini boss was alright, I guess, and I barely used the ball and chain outside this dungeon. It just kind of exists after that. Dungeon boss, though, was fantastic. It hurt having to fight Yetta because I think she's so cute, but it was such a memorable and fun fight. Overall, I give it an 8 out of 10. I really love the Temple of Time's atmosphere, and these stairs kind of remind me of Kingdom Hearts. It's pretty linear and straightforward for the most part. I hate these little spiders though. The mini boss introduces the Dark Nut, which really puts your swordsman skills to the test, which I really like. I don't like the Dominion Rod, to be honest. It's just kinda useless if you're not dealing with a statue. The boss is so eerie. This game just really loves shoving spiders down your face. It's easy for the most part, and it's so satisfying slamming it down. This scene is just so funny. I mean, it's an alright temple. I give it a 5 out of 10. I'm gonna say it, I hate the city in the sky. This temple sucked. I thought the water temple was bad, but this one really takes the cake. Sure, the ambience is cool, but I backtracked way too many times. I fell constantly, and the mini boss was pretty underwhelming and lackluster. The only redeeming part was the dungeon boss, an absolutely badass dragon, and finally getting the double claw shot. I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. The Palace of Twilight was probably the most linear and shortest temple for me, and honestly, I really enjoyed that. But I have to mention one thing. Those damn hands. Seriously, what is up with Nintendo and terrifying hands? The objective sounds simple enough. Get the soul outside the Palace of Twilight before the hand catches up with you. But in practice, it's straight up anxiety. Hearing that thing slowly drift towards you while you're scrambling to get through the enemies and shadows is like the worst. But the highlight of this dungeon was the fight with Sand. It's literally a remix of almost all the major boss fights from the dungeons earlier, but twisted into something that fits his personality perfect. Just with that battle alone, this temple is a straight up 10 out of 10. There's honestly not a ton to say about Hyrule Castle's dungeon. It's definitely fitting as the final area, but most of it is just navigating the ruined castle while fighting enemies we've already seen throughout the game and using items we collected in earlier dungeons. I do really love the interior of the castle, and seeing it partly destroyed, abandoned, and reclaimed by monsters adds so much more to the atmosphere. The real highlight is absolutely the final battle sequence with Ganondorf. If I had to rank it by each phase from weakest to strongest, the horseback fight is at the bottom. It just felt a little underwhelming, and honestly, I didn't really enjoy the horseback battles in this game. Next would be Beast Ganon, which I still enjoyed, but not as much as the others. The puppet Zelda fight was surprisingly fun, both visually and conceptually, and then the absolutely peak, the final 1v1 sword duel against Ganondorf, and the final move being the finishing blow. The first skill that the hero shade teaches you is just cinema. I give it a 7 out of 10. There's no denying it. Zelda has always been known for its music, but Twilight Princess handles it in such a special way. The Howling Stones, plus the horse and hawk grass melodies, are not just fun mechanics, but they're little callbacks to songs from previous games, and they add such a nostalgic layer for longtime fans. The soundtrack always fits the atmosphere perfectly. Every time I enter the Twilight-covered area and the eerie ambient theme starts to play in the background, it generally gave me chills. And during boss fights, when you finally gain the upper hand, the subtle Hyrule Field motif kicks in, and it just feels so triumphant. Even Midna humming her own theme is just such a small detail, yet says everything you know. The music is fire, and even the characters themselves are vibing to it. There's honestly so much more I can say about this game, but it doesn't change the main point. I genuinely love Twilight Princess. From its atmosphere, story, and characters, to the dungeons and soundtrack, it hits every note for me in such a memorable way. This has been my love letter to The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.